Welcome to Roll for Geekiness. I am Jonathan, and welcome to another episode of the Brewers Cauldron, the series where our team shares some of our favorite Magic the Gathering decks and the cards and combos that make them tick. Today, I'm talking about two decks because they are similar but have some vast differences. These are Syr Gwyn, Hero of Ashvale, and Galea, Kindler of Hope. These are both Knight Kindred Commander decks, but one buffs them up with equipment, while the other buffs them up with auras. Let's take a look at each. Syr Gwyn costs 3 generic, 1 red, 1 white, and 1 black for a 5/5 human knight with vigilance and menace. She has a triggered ability that says, whenever an equipped creature you control attacks, you draw a card and you lose a life. She also has a static ability that says, equipment you control have equip knight 0. This means that all of my equipment can be equipped to any knight for 0 mana. Galea, Kindler of Hope, costs 1 generic, 1 green, 1 white, and 1 blue for a 4/4 elf knight with vigilance. She also has 2 static abilities. The first says, you may look at the top card of your library at any time. And the second says, you may cast aura and equipment spells from the top of your library. When you cast an equipment spell this way, it gains, when this equipment enters the battlefield, attach it to target creature you control. You probably noticed that both share white and no other colors, but that's okay because white gives both decks access to most of the best knights that care about other knights. Knight Exemplar, Kinsbale Cavalier, Valiant Knight, and both of these decks also like Armored Skyhunter and Danatha Capuchin Paragon. By splitting the other 4 colors, I have a place for all the other great knights to put in Knight Kindred decks, like Exsanguinator Cavalry, Herald of Hoofbeats, Inspiring Veteran, Vodalian Wave Knight, Marshal of Zalfir, or Ariel, Knight of Windgrace. And there are certainly more good knights in each deck besides. Of course, the equipment deck has lots of great equipment, like Argentum Armor, Bloodforge Battle Axe, Embercleave, Vorpal Sword, Quietus Spike, Sigiled Sword of Valoron, and of course, Colossus Hammer, since Syr Gwyn lets me sidestep that hefty equip cost. And then of course, stuff that cares about equipment, like Kol the Forge Master, Rayev Master Smith, Pure Steel Paladin, and Osgir the Reconstructor. Similarly, the Auras deck has lots of great auras, like All That Glitters, Ancestral Mask, Auramancer's Guise, Ethereal Armor, Call to the Kindred, Mantle of the Ancients, Rancor, and Unquestioned Authority, to name a few. And of course, some stuff that cares about auras, like Umbra Mystic, Yenna Redtooth Regent, Elever of the Wild Court, and Retether. Both decks have card draw, protection pieces, graveyard recursion, removal, and token makers, though, as you might expect, there's a little more card draw in blue and more removal in red and black. What's that? I think I hear someone out there saying, but Jonathan, if you're sitting here comparing them, which one's better? Honestly, I like them both. If I didn't, I probably would have taken one of them apart by now. To be fair though, I have been running Syr Gwyn since she was my Brawl deck, when she was first released with Throne of Eldraine, and this deck has been tuned a lot since then. Galea, on the other hand, is a deck that I pondered modifying when it was released, but the tipping point for me finally came with the release of the Elever deck in Wilds of Eldraine. So this is a much newer deck that still needs a few more bouts under its belt before I have a good sense of how it needs to be tweaked. Ultimately, I think that it boils down to play style. While they both want to summon knights and buff them up, the feel is notably different, as are the cards available in each different color combination. The balance of cards in the deck that do the thing are also notably different, and that's because of the primary difference between equipment and auras. Equipment can be moved around, especially with Syr Gwyn's ability, and so equipping a token creature is not a big deal, even if I know that it's likely to die. Any equipment remains on the battlefield even when the equipped creature is removed. This is why there's actually only 16 pieces of equipment in this deck. On the contrary, auras typically can't be moved, and they also go away when the enchanted creature is removed. This is why there are 31 auras in this deck. Finally, I suppose I should address the fact that Galea's ability actually does also work with equipment. And in fact, so do several other cards in this deck. By that token, one could merge the best parts of both decks, but that would lose access to red and black. Also, I really think that Gwyn's ability to equip for 0 is more useful in the long game than Galea's equip on cast ability. Your mileage may vary. As usual, Archidect links to both of these decks will be in the description below. Since they are my decks, you will also find lists of cards that I have cut from each, cards that I am considering for a maybe board, and a wish list of cards that I would still like to add. Did I miss any great cards or combos for either of these? Let me know in the comments, or just tell me about your favorite Legendary Knight.